You're going to have to find your inner child. You're going to have to pretend, fake it till you make it. They love the fact that you're willing to make a fool out of yourself just to be with them. They love it when you just make an effort. They love that. But that's love too, is going out of your comfort zone and being willing to make a fool out of yourself. You don't have to be silly to do silly things. Does that make sense? We used to do the Make Mommy Laugh nights. And this is just a perfect example of how to be silly without being a silly person. We ended up calling those nights Make Mommy Pee nights because I'd always be wetting my pants. I'd be laughing so hard. Welcome to the Bratbusters Parenting Podcast. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach. I'm a mom. I'm also a grandmother.
And I'm Amy Bunnage, Lisa's daughter, and I handle the marketing and planning here at Bratbusters. While I don't have kids, each episode will dive into real-world parenting topics and answer your questions. Let's get started.
Hi, welcome to another podcast. And what is today's topic, sweetheart?
I feel like we're out of practice. We haven't done this for a week.
We've done this for a whole week. Usually we're doing, twice a week usually?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's been a whole week. We've just been so busy because we were updating the courses. And so that took up a lot of time. So now we're back into it.
Okay. This one is a listener request topic, and it is connecting with your kids through fun and play.
I don't talk about that a lot. And why do I not talk about that a lot? Because no one asks me in these lives or in the podcast. I get asked that a lot in coaching. Well, no, I bring it up a lot in coaching.
You say you never get asked in the podcast. You don't look at the podcast though. So you don't, I'm just going to interject there. In lives, probably not so much.
Okay. I don't look at the podcast. I don't look at social media. That is true.
I never get asked this. This is a listener request. I literally said listener request.
Okay. I'm very busy. Okay. What do you want to talk about now, Amy? Okay. Now, so how to bond with kids through play. Okay, well, we need ages here too, but I've got lots of general stuff I can talk about too. So bonding with play. So I'm going to write that down because I always forget at the very end of the podcast, I always forget what the title was.
You know what I think we could do is we have some listener questions here. Maybe we can flip it and do the listener questions first and then end on some of your favorite ways.
And it'll spark stuff too. So I mean, I've always got stuff I can talk about, but it's better if it's coming from the viewer, what they want. Okay. Because they're always asking me about this.
I think maybe one thing before we get in, do you find that parents have guilt around not knowing how to connect?
No, they have guilt over how poorly they are disciplining, like if they're yelling or hit or spanking their kids. They have a lot of guilt around that. I don't hear a lot of guilt over not connecting, which is interesting. I don't think that they realize how important it is. And that's my whole business. I teach how to connect. And disciplining is part of that. You're connecting in their world by bringing out the best in them. But it's not something that parents tend to talk about a lot. Oh, I feel so bad I don't connect with my kids. I don't hear that very often. A lot of guilt over all the mistakes they feel they've made. A lot. And that's not usually one of them, which is interesting. I guess they got bigger fish to fry. They're more worried about yelling at their kids, which makes sense, right?
Okay, we'll just get right into the questions.
Sure.
So we have Natalia from Poland. Hi, my child is almost 3 and I have a problem which is more about me. I love doing puzzles with my child or reading him books, but now he loves playing cars most of the time and I don't enjoy it. However, I still want to give him connection during this play. Do I force myself to play with him or do you have any other suggestions on how to go about it?
Yeah, as she was talking, I was thinking she's reading to him and what else? Doing puzzles and reading. He's almost 3-year-old little boy. He wants to play in the mud, roll in the grass. You're going to have to find your inner child. Yeah, you're going to have to pretend, fake it till you make it. He will kind of pick up on the fact that you're forcing it. But if he's having such a great time, you might find you start enjoying it a little bit more. It'll never be your thing, but welcome to parenting. We have to do a lot of stuff that we don't enjoy doing just to connect with our kids. That is the reality of it. So yeah, fake it till you make it, or just fake it overall if you always have to. Okay? And I'll tell you something interesting. When my son we were like super close growing up. We talked about everything. And then he turned about 15, 16, and I saw a shift. He wasn't talking as much. He was turning into a man, basically. And our interests really spread, like his music. He liked video games. But instead of trying to pull him back into my world, so he could be my girlfriend, I guess. That's what he said. Mom, I'm not your girlfriend anymore. I'm turning into a man. It's very funny. Anyway, so I started asking him, I said, well, do you have any music you think I might like? He liked heavy metal music. Turns out now I've turned around. I like a lot of that stuff. I opened my mind. But you always have to give more than you expect to get. In other words, you have to do what's fun for them rather than what's fun for you. You start out that way and you might start enjoying it, like I did with my son. I didn't pretend. You can't pretend with teenagers so much. They pick up on that. But you open your mind so that maybe you might actually enjoy some of the video games they play. I actually was never any good at gaming, but we did used to do a lot of Guitar Hero together, because that wasn't really competitive. It was just kind of goofy and fun, which is more my thing. So yeah, you do have to fake it, and you may never make it, but you still have to fake it. You always enter their world to connect with them. Don't expect them to enter your world.
I feel like by the time I was a teenager, you were like, okay, we're going to go do the girls grind. And you brought me into your world with that one.
Well, I brought you into my fitness world because you weren't as into fitness, and that was important to me. So yeah, I did pull you into my fitness world.
And then we got competitive.
Then we got competitive. It got ugly.
Just envision me and my mom racing each other up the girls grind.
Yeah, it got ugly.
Which is, if you're not from Vancouver, it is
they call it nature's stairway, and it's huge. It's about, if you're not fit, it could be 2 to 3 hours. If you're super fit, it could be 30 minutes. The best time I ever did, I think, was 52 minutes. And what was yours? Yours was 49 or something.
It was 49.
Yeah,
I can't believe you remembered that.
Whatever. Yeah, but it's a gross grind. It's very competitive. A lot of people do it every day. If I could get there every day, I'd do it every day. And you go straight up, basically. It could be a little bit of scrambling if you do certain sections, which is the crawling kind of stuff. But mostly you don't need to do that. But then you take the gondola back down. So it's that steep. Anyway, so we got very competitive. But she beat me. But she's younger, so I'll give her that, whatever.
You always, yeah, but you're younger, so it doesn't really count.
I gotta throw that in. But I can do a plank a lot longer than you can. So there you go. Okay, I'm redeemed. But yeah, I did pull her into my fitness world because I thought it was good for her. That's why. And goes to the gym every day now. She's 30. I'm not pulling her in. She loves it.
No, I go on my own free will.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so next question is Angela from the United States. When I pick up my son from preschool, he's 3.5, will be 4 in August. We go to play on the playground at school and attempt to play with his classmates, but sometimes he just goes around taking toys away and chucking them over the wall. A majority of the time he does this terrorizing behavior, and all while he's not angry, acting or anything, but he does make kids cry. I would cry too if someone did that. I remain calm, gather all the toys to the original kids, and tell him to apologize, and we leave. He doesn't act like this when we leave preschool and go to another playground with kids he doesn't know. Any advice?
Well, why do you get him to apologize? Does that mean anything to him? No, nothing. Where's the consequence? All you had to do was give the toys back to the other kids. When I get home, I would say, okay, here's your consequence for grabbing toys off other kids for being mean to them at the park. You need to have a consequence. These apologies are just useless. All he's doing is it's a get out of jail free card. All I have to do is say sorry, and then I'll just do it again and again and again. That's not teaching them anything. He needs a consequence. Get him to do a chore. Check out my free behavior board. It's at bratbusters.com. And there's always 2 consequences for the kids. So you can even put down no being mean to others. That kind of covers all that. But you don't use it as a blanket thing. If he says something to you like shut up, you can't use that as being mean to others. That's more in the attitude department. But if he's literally physically being mean to other kids, that's what I'm talking about. So his rule is no being mean to others. And then when he has to do a chore. If he will not do a chore, then it's 24-hour media blackout or something like that. So check it out. It's explained in the behavior board. It's a mini course, by the way.
And the reason why I chose this question was because you talk a lot about letting kids be in charge of the play and the fun. Now, I'm assuming maybe for him, this is fun to chuck toys.
But that's not fun for others. That's not fun. That's just terrorism. So yeah, they can be in charge of fun when they're being nice, but as soon as they're not being nice, no, you are in charge. That's where you have to take over. So I think he's just getting away with too much. There's no repercussions. Why wouldn't he? Imagine if you never got a speeding ticket. All you had to do was say sorry. Chances are you might be more inclined to speed in the future. Am I right? It's the ticket that stops you from speeding, right? What if you didn't pay your taxes, that you just had to say sorry? You see where I'm going with this? It's empty. It's meaningless. It's garbage. There's no remorse in it. And remorse doesn't make you do the right thing, by the way. Remorse does not make you do the right thing. He might feel bad in the moment. A lot of people do. But if there's no consequence, you might feel bad about speeding. You might feel bad about not paying your taxes, but you're still going to do it or not do it. if there's no repercussion, potentially, if you have that in you. But you see what I'm saying? There's what's with this sorry? Kids, people overuse that. So he said he was sorry. He said he wouldn't do it again. Right. And what are you talking about? Like what difference does that make? He's going to keep doing it. Why wouldn't he? Yeah, it's useless.
Okay. Uh, the next question is Jenny from the United Kingdom. I have a 3-year-old son. How to connect if you're not funny or goofy?
Yeah, I get this a lot in coaching because I was gifted with being, what am I, a doofus, a goofball, maniacs. I probably connect better with kids than I do with adults. So I don't think adults see that side of me, though. I don't show it around
You have
adults.
your inner silly.
I do have my inner silly, so it helps, but most of my clients don't. So I still teach them how to connect. There's lots of ways to connect without being silly and goofy, but it usually is physical with young children. So you can still hop around the home. You can still have hopping races, stuff like that. You don't have to be silly to do silly stuff, right? So a lot of people think that they have to be silly. No, you can still do silly stuff. You can still face paint with your kids. You can still do a TikTok dance together. You can still do somersault competitions. You can still have swinging competitions with them. It's just stuff like that. You don't have to be silly to do silly things. Does that make sense? You're not silly.
I'm not, but I just want to sort of clarify. You're saying the silliness is a requirement as a parent.
Yeah, well, yes, I think so. But you're not silly. Not at all. Neither's your brother, really. No, I was the silly one in the family. But when you were growing up, you loved silly stuff. Yeah, little kids do. As teenagers, how did that change? Because silly wasn't, I still have a lot of silly in me, but I kind of had to hold that back. Luckily, I've got a grandchild now, so I can feed that need. But what did I do? How did I connect when you were a teenager? So someone, with older kids might, well, yeah, silly is great when they're little, but when they're 16, they don't want no silly. So what would you say for that?
Well, when I was a tween, we started doing DDR, and that was definitely something that we connected with. So if you're not familiar, Dance Dance Revolution, it's like you have the 4 arrows in the arcades and you like step on them.
And then we bought the mats for home. We got so into it. We'd get up every morning early because I was always super into fitness and she wasn't. And I was determined to get her into fitness. And that was one of the first ways I did it. I bought those DDR mats.
So we did that. I'm trying to think of other ways as I got older. Yeah, it was fitness and I don't know. We just chatted and
We did talk a lot.
yeah, I am a talker.
Yeah.
As I got older, I became a talker. So,
Well, you didn't stand a chance with your brother around when you were younger.
but I do have these like memories of because I'm not silly and you are, and then you would do something silly, and then you'd be like, and then I wouldn't laugh, and you'd be like, you just got no sense of humor.
Yeah, come on, find your inner silly.
So it flipped. You were expecting me to find my inner silly.
Yeah, the problem was that I was more silly than my kids. So as they grew up, it was I had to sort of hold it back a little bit. But like I said, I got a grandchild now, so I can feed that. So, but
This might be a good time to tell the story, though, of that person that you said where they weren't silly, but they were a great storyteller.
that was a client that I had. She was really adorable. She had no silly in her, and she wasn't into humor really either. She said that. She goes, "I'm very serious." She had like a job that was very studious, and she was just a really lovely, lovely young lady. Anyway, and she said, how do I connect with my now? Which one was okay? This was the one. Oh, there's a couple that are very similar actually. This is the one that was a storyteller, and I said, "Well, what do you love to do? What are you good at?" And she goes, "I'm a really good storyteller." And I said to her, "Well, what do you mean by that?" And she goes, "Well, I could tell you a story and incorporate you into it and just make it up." And that's what I love doing. So I can't remember. I don't know if she wrote books or what, but and I told, oh no, she didn't. And I said, "You got to start writing children's books." I mean, she was good at this. So I said, "Well, tell me a story about myself." She made up the story. She picked out these odd little things that I do. She made it so personal, and it was just so adorable. She had a real way. And I said, "There you go." And I said, "Do you do this with your kids?" And she goes, "Not really." And I said, "Well, start doing it." And that's what helped. And but she was a brilliant storyteller. She was very calm. Anyway, she told me this story and I just wanted to crawl into her lap. Like she was just so soothing. So you can connect in different ways. Another one was one I was sort of getting them mixed up sometimes was she never played with her kids. And I said, "Well, your rule is no yelling. If you yell, you have to play with Lego." One of her kids was obsessed with Lego. And she'd never played with him ever. with Lego. And I said, wow. And he was, I don't know, 8 or 9 or something. And so I said, okay, so your consequence is you have to play Lego for 30 minutes with your son. And she said, well, I don't want to do that. She goes, I couldn't think of anything worse. And I said, well, you have to. That's your rule. Sure enough, she didn't yell all week. And I always tell parents, you make sure you yell. You make sure you break your own rule so that you show the kids how this is done. So you get a consequence. She didn't do it. So she goes, well, I didn't play Lego because I didn't yell. And I said, well, you should have. And she goes, oh, I forgot. And I said, no, you didn't. You just didn't want to play Lego. So the next week I said, now you have to yell, and you have to play Lego. And I said, either that or I'm going to put your rule, play 30 minutes of Lego every single day. That's going to be your new rule. Well, she decided to yell instead. So anyway, so the next week she comes back to the next session. She has this big smile on her face. And I said, oh God, I said, how'd it go? And she goes, well, I didn't play Lego for 30 minutes. And I was defeated. I felt really crushed. I take this really personally, my business. And then she goes, I played for 3.5 hours. She sat down with her son, and when he realized she was going to play Lego with him, he crawled up into her lap, and for 3.5 hours, he just kept rubbing his head against her, underneath her chin, and they just sat there and played for 3.5 hours. Isn't that beautiful? And she discovered enjoying her child. And she said it was the first time ever. She's actually really she loved him, but you know what I mean. When you just thoroughly enjoy being with them. It was the first time ever. So that was playing in his world. Lego was his world, not hers, but she enjoyed it because he was loving it so much.
You do talk about that. It's almost like this feedback loop of once you realize the connection that you can get.
Gets easier. Feedback loop. Aren't we fancy? Feedback loop. Where'd you get that from? I've never heard you say that before, ever.
Oh, sorry.
Feedback loop.
Sorry, I have things that I say when I'm not in your presence.
We see each other all the time, so feedback loop. That's very true. Yeah, it's very true.
Well, I'm just thinking even the other day, again, I'm not silly, but with my niece, I'm only an aunt, I'm not a mom, but with my niece, I'm playing peekaboo with her, and I'm like, this is so fun. But that's not in my nature to
not
play
at all.
peekaboo, but it's seeing her reaction.
She loved it.
It's so heartwarming, and you feel the connection, and it becomes peekaboo in itself is not fun for me, but seeing the reaction is really
so
fun.
That would be I would call that a feedback loop.
I don't think that's such a silly thing to say.
It's not. I've just never heard you say that before because we see each other all the time. So.
Heaven forbid I add something to my vocabulary.
I know. You didn't even send me
vocabulary. What a fancy.
You should have said vocabulary.
I did it before you could.
You didn't even send me a message about it. Anyway, story about the mother-daughter. Anyway.
But we will get into the next question.
Okay, sorry.
So this one was anonymous. So daughter, 5 years old. Is it wrong? Sorry, I'm just laughing because of that.
I know.
So daughter, 5 years old. Is it wrong for her to refuse to play or include someone in her game at school?
Is it rude? What did she say? Is it rude or wrong, or what did she say?
Is it wrong for her?
Is it wrong? Well, she doesn't have to include everybody, but I don't know this. I don't know what's going on around that. She doesn't have to include everybody. Say, come on in, play. Come on. If you're playing a game where it's only 2 people can play, she doesn't need to let 28 people into the game. So I don't quite know what that is. Or is she sort of being too bossy and sort of bossing other kids around? But if it's happening at school, I wouldn't worry about it unless she's being mean. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know if she's being mean. Maybe it's a game where she doesn't have to include everybody. I remember playing tetherball. I don't know if anyone knows what that is. There's a pole and a ball with like a basketball, and it's got a string on it, and you just hit it around. Now, I'm not a pushy person. I'm not a physically pushy person or bossy kind of person. And I can remember, everyone gets a turn, and everyone would line up in front of me. And I often would never even get a turn at tetherball because I'm not pushy. So other kids would push in front of me. And I look back, I wish I'd been a little bit more bossy. Like maybe I could have played tetherball more. So yeah, I don't know if other kids are being rude to her or she's being rude to them is what I'm saying. You see, maybe they take over. Sorry, that's just a childhood memory I'm going back to. So yeah, let everyone play, Lisa. Well, then they all go in front of me. I never even got a turn. Obviously, some repressed memories there.
Do you feel better now? Off your chest?
No, I'm going to work that through later. I think I'll get a therapist to work that one through. Tetherball trauma.
Oh.
But yeah, so I remember someone saying to me, well, Lisa, because I was right there, and they said, let everyone play. The teacher said that to me. I never even got a turn. Okay, I'm going to let that go.
I can feel the pain.
It hurt. So I don't know the situation. Maybe there is a situation where other kids come in and maybe take over. So that could be it too.
Okay, the next question is Kelsey from America. My daughter is 18 months and I'm having trouble connecting with my toddler. She gets so caught up in playing with her dad that she ignores me when it's time to stop. Even grandma seems to be her preferred choice sometimes. I feel like I'm missing out on bonding time with her. Any tips? She throws a tantrum after interacting with dad, chasing him around the house and crying. It's overwhelming for him and he can't get alone time while I'm missing out on bonding. I try so hard to get her to notice me, nothing works, not playing, being crazy, etc. Help, I feel like I'm missing out.
Yeah, I don't quite know what's going on, but I would have time alone with her. It's hard to bond when you've got the other parent or the grandparent there who's better at it. So you need time alone with her to bond. Find your own little language. Like it's quite interesting with my granddaughter. She's got a different relationship with her mom and a different relationship with her dad and a different relationship with me. So they form different relationship with different people. And I'm sure the other grandparents different relationship again. So you don't have to be the same as the dad. You can find your own relationship. One of the things I do with my granddaughter that she just loves is when she's just babbling on like da ga ga, I mimic her right away. She loves that. She gets louder, she gets excited. So just find a way to connect on your own, not around them, because it's going to be impossible. If they've already got the market cornered on that, there's no way you're going to be able to come in and sort of weasel into that. Yeah, you need alone time with her. And they do love, you don't have to be silly, by the way, but you can be playful, like do physical stuff with her. You can be like skipping, carrying her. Like I do that with my granddaughter. I just start skipping when I'm carrying her sometimes. She loves that. Just find something different. Don't try and copy what they're doing, though. You're probably not going to do it as well because that's their thing. Find your own thing. It's simple, though. They're simple. Like itsy bitsy spider. I'm a little teapot. I do all that stuff. They love that. Do all the actions with it. But don't do it in front of your husband or the grandmother because they'll start doing it with her and take over.
Okay, we have Leslie from the United States. I have a 18-month-old and a 2-month-old. The 18-month-old is not a great self-entertainer, and I'm finding it difficult to put my 2-month-old down for naps. My 2-month-old requires a bit of work to settle to sleep, and it's becoming almost impossible with my toddler trying to get my attention. Play with me, poke the baby. She has a lot of separation anxiety and doesn't do well in another room by herself. She sometimes has meltdowns if I walk away from her, and she gets very jealous of the 2-month-old. I don't have any help during the day, so I'm unsure how to handle this. My 2-month-old is getting overtired during the day, being unable to sleep.
Okay, this is where you got to do what you got to do. Usually they like screens. I would literally turn on a kid show because you've got to get that 2-month-old to bed. I can't help you teach your 18-month-old right now how to have independent play. That takes time, okay? But right now you just want to cope. I literally would just use a screen. They almost all love screens. And I wouldn't, like, I'm assuming you don't let them use it very often. So it might be like something really special. So just turn on a kid show if you've got to get that 2-month-old to bed. You got to do what you got to do. You got to meet the needs of them. Okay. The needs are the 18-month-old needs to be around you all the time, but you can't always have them around because they're disrupting the 2-month-old sleep time. So the 2-month-old needs to get to sleep. Then once the 2-month-old is to sleep, then you turn off the TV and then you can play with the 18-month-old. And another way to sort of encourage independent play is to do a toy rotation system. Because if they're looking at the same 1,000 toys all the time, they're going to be overstimulated and they're never going to play on their own. If they only have 5 or 10 toys in front of them that they get rotated every week or so, they're much more likely to do independent play and learn how to focus. Okay, so do that toy rotation system. And also do stuff that's creative. Don't just give them something that they look at or push a button. Do something where they create something like blocks and show them how to do it. Do little racetrack sets, that little safe ones for 18 months old. Something that they can put together and roll something on. Something where it's action. But yeah, and rotate the toys around. They're never going to be stimulated or focusing if they've got 1,000 toys at them all the time. They get bored. It's overstimulating. It's too much. Okay, was that a good answer? Felt like I went on a little bit.
We'll go into the next one.
Okay.
So
You didn't even answer. Was that a good answer? Did I cover it, is what I'm saying?
I feel like it. I was reading the next question, so I
you
zoned
lost track.
out.
Never mind. Go on.
Sarah from the United States. Playing balloon tennis and using your baby as a racket sounds like a blast. I would love to hear more ideas of games to play with my baby and my almost 3-year-old.
Okay. Well, I used you as the racket, as the bat, whatever we were playing. I used you as the
Let's clarify. These
Not
aren't hard.
nothing hard. This is balloons, this is, stuff, and I'd use her little feet to kick the ball. So I was including her that way. And when we would go on the swing, she'd be on my lap, or I'd put her on his lap. He's 5 years older. So I would, I was always including her, but it was more like she was an appendage.
I was just there.
She was just there, but she was in on everything. She loved it. She loved anything that was around her little brother. Or older brother, sorry. She loved it. So yeah, she was in on everything. But she was just always there. But it's interesting because he was never jealous. I don't know if he would have been if he was younger. He's 5 years older. I don't know if he would have been because I wasn't talking to her like I was to him. The older one you tend to be able to talk to more, but she was always with us, but he didn't seem to mind at all because I was always talking to him and it was always playing with him, right? I wasn't playing with her. She was just included in her brother and I games. So, but I made her part of it for sure. If we went down slides, she went down with me, or I put her on his lap and they went down together. And then I was at the bottom to catch her when
Safely, I'm
oh,
assuming.
very safely, yeah. So, but do you understand? Like, you don't necessarily try and play with the baby, but include them in everything that you're doing with the older one. And they love it. They love being included. They love the action. They don't know that that's not their game. It is sort of, they're in on it. You loved it. You were laughing away. And like I said, we'd be skipping to the park and I'd be holding her skipping. What baby isn't going to enjoy that? That's fun. You loved it.
Okay, we have Camille from Canada. I have a 2-year-old that's going through terrific twos. I've been following you on how to handle a toddler with leadership parenting. You've talked about how making sure you play and have time for your toddler so when it's time to parent, you won't feel so guilty. The thing is, my 2-year-old daughter goes to daycare 5 days a week, and I only have time with her a couple hours before and after daycare before she goes to sleep. How do I justify letting a tantrum run its course versus giving her attention that she might not be able to get enough from me, having less time than I would like with each every other week?
I think what she's asking is, I've got so little time with her. Why on earth would I want to stand there ignoring her during a tantrum? Is that what it is? It's the long term that you're after. You want those tantrums to stop, and they will stop if you ignore them. Okay. If you are going to give in to those tantrums, they're going to get worse and worse and worse, and you're going to have less and less time with her. So yeah, don't feed it. You want to starve a tantrum by giving it no attention whatsoever. But as soon as it's over, be fast to connect. You come right in right after it's over. Oh, you all done? Do you want to go play a game? It's like that. So she'll eventually learn, wait a minute, if I shut up now, maybe I'll get to play a game. She'll put it together eventually. You're playing the long game here. It's short-term pain for long-term gain. I understand where you're coming from, but don't parent from guilt, which is what that is. Yeah, you don't want to do that. That's a dangerous place to come from, is guilt-ridden parenting. If you're feeling guilty about your parenting, you'll almost always make the wrong decision. And by ignoring tantrums and not feeding it, you're minimizing them, and then they'll eventually go away. That's the idea. And then you'll have more time in the long run with her.
Can you discuss this, if this is someone's first podcast, when you talk about ignoring, are you leaving the room? Are you going on a phone?
Never, never, never. When you're ignoring a tantrum, make sure that you look like you're waiting for a bus. You look like you're just waiting. You're just standing there. You don't look at them or talk to them. You're nearby. Don't go on a phone. Don't get into a conversation. They're still going through something. You want to look like you know they're having a tantrum. You're just waiting for it to finish. It's very important that they know you're there for them, but you're not going to look at them or talk to them, but you're there. Okay. If they're clawing at you, just let them. But don't say anything. Just let them keep clawing. You might want to, peel them off you if they're getting really aggressive, but still calm, calm, calm. As soon as they're done. Oh, y'all done? Do you want to go read a book? See the difference? They just start. Tantrums will diminish in frequency, duration, and intensity over a period of time. Some of my clients say that they notice in the first week the difference. So, because there's no attention given to it. By the way, tantrums do not start to get attention, but they continue to get attention. What I mean is they generally don't start a tantrum because they want attention. They'll do bad behavior to get attention. And then when you correct them or take away that thing they grabbed, then they have the tantrum. Now they want the attention. That makes sense? They don't start a tantrum because they want attention, but they will continue it if you give them attention, because they will do it to get attention during the tantrum. Made sense to me. Okay.
I'm going to the next one. So, Sarah from Saudi Arabia. What do you say to cultures and people who believe being your child's friend means he will rebel in his teen years?
Well, you can be friends with your kids, but it's your second role. Your first role is always mom and dad. That's what I was definitely friends with my kids. Did you feel we were friends? Absolutely. And I know my son felt the same way growing up. So, if you're friends with your kids, that's your goal. You want to be friends. You want to have fun with them. But I was always mom first. If they ever stepped a toe out of line or if they needed me for something, I was all, and I still am. I am mom before I'm anything. So that's your number one role. That's how you make it work. And then when you're a good leader, they don't get in trouble anyway, so you can just be friends and have fun with them all the time anyway. I don't really remember disciplining you kids. It was very rare, and it was never anything huge.
You just had the look.
I had the look. Yeah, my mom had the look. And I'm adopted, so it's not hereditary.
Because when you talk about that you never like we messed up and we did things where we got the look. For
They
sure.
would get the look. And it was very subtle too. All I had to do was look their way. And because I'm such a goofy person normally, I wasn't goofy when I was looking at them if they ended up. I was very not goofy. So yeah, they knew that. They knew that. That reminds me of like when they were really little, I used to be the panty monster. So when I was doing laundry, I'd put all my underpants on my head and the leg holes were my eye holes. And I'd chase them around with panties on my head and I was the panty monster. But if they'd ever acted up or got over silly and that or did something, I would just stop and I would take the panties off my head very calmly and I'd just say, we'll try again tomorrow. That's all I had to say. And they never acted up again. So I never even really said anything. It was just I stopped being fun. I stopped being the friend basically in that moment. And all of a sudden now I'm mom. See the difference?
Like a light switch.
Oh, it was. It was very fast. I'm very quick. I don't give second chances because warnings, if you give a kid a warning, it means they can do something bad in the short term. It's a big mistake. If you do that again, you're going to be in trouble. Ugh. You're not a leader if you say that because you got to address it the first time. There's no warnings here.
I feel like now that we do a lot of work together, it's flipped where I'm daughter. I'm always daughter first, but sometimes I put on my work cap and sometimes I'm more serious.
Well, she scares the heck out of me. She really does because we work together. We're best friends. We're mother-daughter, but we're mother-daughter before we're anything. And then I'd say we're best friends. And now we work together, but we're never together. We just, except when we do a podcast. But yeah, she does all the marketing and planning. She's very driven in business. She's a perfectionist. I'm more the creative doofus. So I remember one day she was doing something on my computer, setting something up, and she gave me something to do that I could have done on my phone. And I went into the sunroom in my home here. I went in the sunroom and she thought I was working on that thing. And I'm just humming away. And she goes, what are you doing? And I said, darning a sock. I was darning a sock. I wasn't doing the task that she had given me to do. That sums it up. The look she gave me, I was scared. I almost had to change my underpants. She scares the bejeebies out of me.
You say the look isn't hereditary, but I think it might be.
It was like, are you freaking kidding me? I told you to do that and you're darning a sock. Yeah. So yeah, things have changed. I would say in the business, yeah, she's more the scary one. For sure.
I would agree.
Yep. And because, I mean, people think she works for me. How would you phrase it? People think that when they hear that we work together, people think she works for me. How would you phrase it? What's our business relationship?
It's a good question. How would I describe that? I take directions from nobody.
Nobody. I take directions from her.
No.
Yeah, no, she's very much in charge. She does all the marketing, all the planning. I'm in charge of all the parenting stuff, obviously. That's the business, right? But yeah, when it comes to all the planning and marketing, she's got a better business head than I do. So and that's why I'm happy she's doing this because it's not my thing. I don't enjoy it. I could do it nowhere near as well as she does, but I don't enjoy it. She loves it. She loves business. She loves all that stuff. So that's how we work so well together. Is that we have such separate roles and we're very different.
I think that's the thing is that you don't overstep on that. And like, I don't know anything about parenting. So
yeah. I know nothing about marketing and I don't want to do any planning. So she just tells me what to do. And then she doesn't know about parenting. So that's all mine. Yeah. There's no overstepping ever. except when we're working on the same computer.
Lots
That's
of
when
overstepping there.
there are lots of overstepping there.
Okay, we'll
So,
go back to the final question.
yeah.
So we have Michelle from the United States. With connection for kids, can you give examples on how to be funny? Funny is not second nature to me.
Okay. Kids love, I'll tell you what I used to do with my kids. I think I've talked about this, but we used to do the Make Mummy Laugh nights. And
Mhm.
there was Jim Carrey's Ace Ventura movies had just come out. And I don't know how old my kids were, maybe 8 and 3. And this is just a perfect example of how to be silly without being a silly person. But it's a good idea. So what we did was we played clips from the movie and then we'd mimic them. And my daughter was the youngest. She was the worst at it. So she'd mimic Jim Carrey in this particular scene. We'd laugh and laugh. She was horrible at it. She loved being the center of attention. She loved it. Then it was my turn. My turn, I would mimic her doing it. Then I would do it. Horrible. I was no better than her. And we'd all be laughing and laughing. And then my son was the master. He could mimic anybody. So he'd mimic her, pardon me, her doing it, me doing her doing it, me doing it, and then he'd do it. By the end of it, we ended up calling those nights Make Mummy Pee nights because I'd always be wetting my pants. I'd be laughing so hard. But you don't have to be creative. You're just following a script, right? You're just mimicking Jim Carrey. Kids love it when you try something that's not in your comfort zone, especially. That is my comfort zone, being silly. But they love it when a very serious parent starts to do stuff like that. I hear this all the time with clients. They said, I wasn't even any good at it. And they said the kids loved it. And I'm like, yeah, what's your point? That is what they love. They love the fact that you're willing to make a fool out of yourself just to be with them. They love that. There's nothing better for a child than seeing a very serious, maybe strict parent. All of a sudden, you're giving them a makeover and they have to do a dance because you yelled at them. That's the consequence for them.
Charades, I'm guessing too.
Charades is another good one, but it doesn't have to be anything you're good at. They love it when you just make an effort. They love that. That's love too, is going out of your comfort zone and being willing to make a fool out of yourself. That is what they love. Go on the swing set and um lots of goofy stuff. Like go on the slide, maybe go backwards, not the kids, it's dangerous, but if you could go backwards on the slide or just go on your belly, they just love stuff like that. I remember once I had this kid I was working with, this years and years ago, and I said, I don't know how to swing. How do you get on a swing? So I straddled it and tried to swing that way, and the kids were laughing. They thought that was the funniest thing. I wasn't even doing anything. I just said, I don't know how to get on a swing. And I went on, straddled it and tried to swing that way. They thought that was the funniest thing. And then also they became the heroes. Then they're showing me how to swing. They literally were helping me to get my leg over, how to sit down, how to hang onto the chain. Then they were pushing me. Now, how do you think those kids would talk about that day at the park with me? Pretty good. I made them feel good.
I think it was maybe in a teacher setting, but I saw this video where they were going to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but the kids were giving them instructions. But the instructions were like, okay, put it on the outside. And they put it on the outside of like the loaf of bread. And they just kept on like messing it up, but like just taking everything literally. And the kids were just having a
That's
great time.
exactly what I'm talking about. Because if they become the hero, and they know that the kind of part of them knows, but they don't care. They love it when they can be the hero. And it should be something funny like that. That's perfect. Exactly what I'm talking about. So I do it like this. How do I do it? Like that. And they're laughing, even though they know you know how to do it.
Yeah. Grab the peanut butter. Okay, it sticks the whole hand inside the peanut
Yeah.
butter jar.
Yeah. Like, how do you drive a car and you get in the passenger seat and try and reach the wheel across the way? Just anything that you do right, try and do it wrong. Say to the kids, I forgot how to do that. Is it like this? Do that with anything. I remember one time there was some tension in the house and we were going through something. The kids and I were rushing around. So what I did was I was the last one to get in the car and I was wearing my bra on the outside of my clothes. And I said, geez, I was in a rush. I hope I got ready okay. I had another bra on the side, but the kids were just cracking up.
Actually, what my favorite joy-filled moments growing up were the fact that we only had two bathrooms. And then on the way
Oh,
home, we would park the car and mom had to turn off the house alarm. And so
okay.
my brother and I would race to those bathrooms and lock it because you have the bladder of
I'm sure I don't
very
even have a
small.
bladder. I just got tubes. Anyway, it was so funny because I would try and block them. So they knew when I always had to pee the second we got home. And they knew that. And they were just cackling from the time they were in the car. And I said, you have to let me try. I have to go to the bathroom first. Well, I've got my leg out trying to block them, and there was no choice. They just ran past me, and they were in the bathroom. I don't even think they were peeing. They were just laughing. And here I am just about wetting myself. You see, silly stuff. Now, a lot of people might say, but you're letting them push you aside. Oh, yes. That was the fun. That was fun. I knew what they were doing. I could have stopped them. I could have locked the door behind me. But no, I let them in because I knew that they loved that. But I was still I still was trying to beat them.
Yeah, you genuinely were.
Yeah, and then I remember I simplified the code so it was even easier to punch in. It was only 4 numbers, and I think it was like, I don't know, 17 or 94, and then I just said, "No, I'm just gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4," so I could do it all in a row so I could get to the bathroom first. Never worked. See? Just simple stuff. There's nothing you don't have to put on a clown suit and dance for them and get out of a little car with 10 of your friends. It's not like that. There's no preparation. It's just silly. Like I said, or sometimes I'd say, "Whoa, where are my sunglasses?" And they'd be on my head. "They're on your head, mommy. They're where?" And then I'd reach the back of my neck. Where? Where? Right on top. Then I'd never get it, right? Little stuff. Simple. Keep
Okay.
it simple.
I feel like that covered a lot of it. Is there anything that you want to end on?
No, but I do want to stress that as they get older, silly just kind of doesn't cut it anymore. So show an interest in what they like, but don't push yourselves on them. Just say, "What are you doing now? Can I just watch you play? I'm just curious what you're doing." So like I would do that when the kids, when they were getting older and they were playing The Sims, I think it was. Is that what it was called? So I would watch what they were doing. So I kind of had an idea what it was all about. I never really got it, but stuff like that. Show an interest in what they like. Yeah, but so less silly, unless they're like me. I always like silly. So but yeah, generally just show an interest in what they are interested in, but show a genuine interest, but don't fake it. Like don't say, "Oh, I love that." Just say, "Oh, that looks interesting." Chances are you'll find something that they're doing that you might actually be interested in, but just keep asking. And if they say no, then just respect that. Don't push yourself on them. Okay? Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. One more thing about finding your inner silly. Oh yeah, just look online, silly things to do that cost no money with toddlers or little kids. Look up the age. You'll find a whole bunch of people out there who are extremely creative. I can't remember her name at all, but I think it was on TikTok and it just pops up from time to time, which is rare because I never look up parenting stuff online, but it pops up because it's so viral. She just does the most creative stuff with her little baby who's maybe under a year now. Like she just puts blue water in a Ziploc bag and puts some frozen peas in there. And this baby on the high chair, this baby just goes nuts playing with this. And then she puts a whole bunch of painter's tape on the wall and the baby just pulls it off. She leaves the ends loose and the baby like just simple stuff that you have around the house. It doesn't have to be anything expensive or anything. It can be just really creative stuff. So look up online. There's a lot of people out there who are way better at that than I am. So yeah, check it out. A whole bunch of resources out there, I'm sure. Okay, so let's just wrap it up. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll talk again next time. Bye now.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out bratbusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. If you've enjoyed the show so far, we'd love it if you could take a moment to follow, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback helps us reach more parents just like you. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit bratbusters.com/disclaimer.